Hi, good morning all. Can you please turn on your cameras? It will be more interactive then. Hello. You can keep your microphones off until you want to ask something, but you can keep your cameras. We have kept this session the purpose of good morning all. Yes, hello. So the purpose of this session is basically there are a lot of questions we are getting from the side of parents regarding various aspects of JEE preparation. So the idea was that to take up those questions and have a discussion over those questions so that you are well informed about whatever is coming in front of you. Fine. So this session is primarily meant for JEE, but if you have NEET questions, I can take that. There is one more session we are trying to do for NEET also. Fine. So most of the things will remain same. One or two NEET related questions, if you ask, I can answer them also. So I will start with those questions that are already there with me. Just the first question that we have got is a very basic question like, what is JEE exam? So I guess, do I need to take that? Okay, I will quickly go over it. So if you talk about all the engineering entrance across this country, there are various colleges. And if you divide the colleges that we can take after opting for mathematics into two categories, the first kind of colleges are those which are research-oriented colleges. Like there is IISc in India. There are colleges like NISCR. There are colleges like Indian Institute of Space Technology, which is one of the colleges by ISRO. These are research-oriented colleges. There are other set of colleges which are technology or engineering-related colleges like IITs, NITs, VIT, BITS. There are many such colleges. So the idea here is basically in India, the umbrella exam for all of these entrances that are happening is basically IIT-JEE exam. Even if you want to opt for a research-oriented college, even in that scenario also, the exam pattern will largely remain same as IIT-JEE, or the pattern of question asked in this exam will largely remain same as IIT-JEE exam. So it is wise to first understand what the JEE exam is, and based on that, because it is an umbrella exam, it will cover the aspects for all other exams as well, right? So if we talk about JEE exam as such, so IIT-JEE is an exam that is conducted across India by an agency called National Testing Agency. Now, that is conducted for IIT-JEE Mains by NTA, and for IIT-JEE Advanced, it will be conducted by IIT-JEE Council. And so there are two levels of this exam. The first one is IIT-JEE Mains, the second one is IIT-JEE Advanced. In Mains, there are approximately 10 lakh students that sit for the exam. And at the level of Advanced, again, out of this, top 10 or 15%, depending on which year the exam is being conducted, will sit for IIT-JEE Advanced as well. If you're appearing for IIT-JEE Mains, you will be given a 75 question paper equally divided among physics, chemistry, and mathematics. And in this paper, there will be objective questions and numerical type questions based on your class 11th and 12th cumulative syllabus. And now this syllabus pattern that JEE follows is basically loosely based on the CBSE pattern. And from syllabus point of view, I'm not talking about from the question point of view. Question point of view, it is different. So that is for IIT-JEE Mains, and there is a subset of this syllabus that is being asked in the part of IIT-JEE Advanced. Though the quality of the questions that we are asking there are much deeper, much more analytical compared to IIT-JEE Mains. At the level of IIT-JEE Advanced, there are two exams that are happening, paper 1 and paper 2. Loosely, both of these papers are approximately 60 questions paper, again equally divided among physics, chemistry, mathematics, and you are given 3 hours to write each of these papers. So at the level of Mains, you are tested for approximately 75 questions. At the level of Advanced, you are being tested for, let us say, 120 questions. So if I describe IIT-JEE exam in one line, it is about solving 200 questions in 9 hours. So what JEE wants out of students is basically you sit in front of us, solve these 200 questions. Because they understand that this exam is primarily about problem solving. And so if you're very good in problem solving, you prove it by solving questions in front of us. And if you're really good, probably you will all qualify for JEE Advanced as well and take admission into one of the IITs. And so this is what JEE exam is, and that this is exactly what they demand out of us. And so this was the first question that I got. The another question that I was given was basically how it is fundamentally different from your board examinations. Because all of the students are writing board examination and few students also get very good marks at the level of class 10 boards. So what is the significance of that vis-a-vis the exam, that if a student is doing really well at the level of boards, how does that translates into JEE as well? So see, IIT-JEE exam, how it is fundamentally different from boards is basically, in boards you are given subjective questions to solve. Now this year they have introduced an objective pattern as well. And there are questions which are also based on paragraph type. They are calling it case-based questions now in class 12 syllabus. But fundamentally speaking, it is a subjective examination and it has some element of application, but not that much. So primarily you are trained to think at a conceptual level. Now, when we are talking about JEE exam, then in JEE exam, the pattern is a little bit different. There the questions are asked at an application level. So concept you have learned, for example, Newton's law of motion you have already learned, but now you should also know how to apply Newton's law of motion. Fine. So in that way, that exam becomes fundamentally different. So if you're doing well at the level of boards, what that means is you are very good with the concepts, probably. You can now, even that concepts might be something to do with remembering a lot of things and then not applying them and not understanding them deeply. While when we are writing JEE exam, it gets tested at a very deep level. And so that is the difference between writing a board examination and writing a JEE examination. So it requires a lot of thorough study also in terms of content. So if I talk about content, it is approximately 10 times of what is required at the level of boards. And if I talk about application also, it is again 10 times. So a lot of effort goes into the preparation of the content, then understanding the content, and then applying the content in the paper. So that is a fundamental difference that we have vis-a-vis the board examination. Now,
but if you also need to share the screen, you
yes. I will share my screen as well. Yeah. Another question that I got was how much preparation does it demand? Now, this is a very good question. Now, first I will divide this question into 4 parts. That what exactly is required for this examination, etc. Now, if you look into this examination, what is required in terms of preparation? So first thing that is required by a student is a goal. What I've seen is basically most of the times the student do not have a set of goals. They just write this examination because their parents want it or somebody told them, their friend got into it, and something. So goal setting is very much required. Once you have done your goal setting, then you require the content. That content can be in the form of classes that you are attending. But this content is very much important. Now this content also, if you look into this content, in physics, it is a complete reorientation of what you are learning at the level of boards. It becomes completely numerical. And if we talk about chemistry, it is almost the same, but again, the orientation is towards the problem solving part. And if I talk about mathematics, it is completely different in terms of the width it will cover. So there's approximately 10 times more content that we are doing here. So you require somebody who is experienced enough to give you this content. And once you have understood this concept, you can more importantly understood the problem type that it entails. And then you will move on to the next part of this journey. And the next part of this journey is basically sitting and doing the practice. So now how much practice I am talking about here? And that should also be very clear. So if you're writing this examination, a student is expected to solve at least 75 questions on a daily basis. So what does that mean is basically, now if you look at IIT-JEE means examination, it consists of 75 questions. So it is as if saying that if you're running a 5-kilometer race, then you should at least practice, as a practice, you should run for 5 kilometers. So the idea here is that when you're practicing for JEE, after the classes are done, you are expected to solve 75 questions, not right from the day one itself, but slowly, at least 75 questions in terms of quantity on a daily basis. And there is another aspect of quality as well. So what is the parameter for quality? So at the level of quality, what you required is basically you do this question on your own. And do not go to internet and seek solution. And do not directly ask the faculty also, say, I was not able to do 50% questions, you tell me. Because if you do that, it is fine, you can ask the faculty, but you will not learn anything in the process. And you will only going to clear this examination if you develop something known as aptitude. Until unless you have aptitude, whatever you did before that will not matter. So this is something, this is like the elixir of the whole process. And if that is not coming out of the whole preparation cycle, you are not going to get very good marks. I have seen students complaining that, sir, I study for 5, 6, 8 hours a day. I am doing this coaching, that coaching also, still I am not getting good marks. You are not getting good marks because you are not able to develop your aptitude. So whatever process we are following, this is the main thing that we need to develop. Now, whatever you have developed, you need to retain also. And that is where the testing, and first we need to test whatever we have done is correct or not. So testing will come here as a feedback mechanism. So there needs to be a very good feedback of whether we are doing is right or not. As a feedback mechanism, it should be there. And then whatever we have done, we need to revise it so that we do not forget. Because if you look into the JEE preparation cycle, it is of approximately 2 years. So in 2 years, if you can learn something, you can also forget it. So you need to retain it. And this retention becomes a major problem for most of the students because there are, if you look into IIT-JEE syllabus, there are approximately 90 topics. And every topic, if I take 1 or 2 topics in mathematics, that will completely cover your approximately 10th class book. So the huge amount of content is there. If you do not revise, you will forget. So if you look into the cycle, and there are these 5 primary steps. One, you should have a very good sense of goal that will keep you motivated. Then you should attend classes for optimum content. After that, sit and do the practice. After practice, write a test, then do a revision. And there is one invisible factor that will help you keep a track or a line with all of these elements. And that is nothing but a mentor. So for doing all this, you will require mentor. So this is what IIT-JEE preparation means. Most of the times, people or students are doing one of these things. And then they expect that they should clear the examination. So you will clear the examination even by some rank, even if you are doing 3 to 4 things out of this correct. But if you are doing only 2 to 3 things, then you will face some kind of a problem in the journey. So every day I meet around 5-10 students across different systems that come to me and they are facing some problem in their preparation because they are not doing any one of this step right. Now, if I specifically answer this question, how much preparation it demands? So what it demands is basically on the side of a student, 75 questions on a daily basis, at least, and that will translate into 4 hours of at least self-study. So what you require is a 4 hours of problem solving, not self-study, and plus 30 minutes of revision, at least, on a daily basis. So in all, if you're able to dedicate this 4.5 hours on a daily basis for a period of 2 years, you are looking at a decent college in your journey. And this is what this is how much the exam is demanding out of you. Now here, a very good question some people ask is basically, now I will jump on to another question and then we'll come back to these questions. Is basically, how to balance between school and coaching, and should we go for dummy school or not? This is a very relevant question. Most of the parents have asked this question. So now I will explain it using some time mathematics that you should understand. See, most of the students, what they do is they go to school. So if they go to school, they are giving 6 to 8 hours depending on what kind of school they have chosen. If they have gone for a okay school, they will take 6 hours. And if they have gone for a very elitist school, they will take up 8 hours of it. So if that is there, if that has happened, now see, this 6 to 8 hours are gone into just schooling. Now after that, you will come back home and you will take some kind of coaching. Now if you are taking coaching, that will depend upon, there are online models, there are offline models. And there are offline models. If I go for online model, they will take 1 to 2 hours, depending on type of coaching. And if you go for online model, they are going to take 3 to 4 hours. What is the difference? Content gets delivered faster when you are doing it online. Offline, you will also have to travel and do other things as well. So it will take 4 hours. So if I take this into account, approximately 1.5 hours is going here, approximately 3 hours is going here. And now if I take an average out of this, 7 hours will go here. So if we take into the time mathematics into account, in the first model of online coaching, you are doing 8.5 hours. are gone. In second model, your 10 hours are gone. And as I already established, beyond this, you will also have to do 4.5 hours of self-prep. So if I add these into this becomes 13 hours. And if I add this into 4.5, this becomes 14.4 hours. 14.5 hours on a daily basis. See, we are all doing our jobs, etc. Asking student to give 14 hours into something on a daily basis is a tyranny, according to me. So this is not advisable. Okay? So this is not going to happen. We will try, and this is not going to happen. Another thing that can happen is 8.5 hours plus 4.5 hours. So this will become 13.5. This will also become difficult. So see, even if you're going for a school, from mathematical point of view, it will be recommendable that you go for a school that takes less amount of time, 5 to 6 hours. So if we take 6 from here, and if we add 1.5 hours of coaching to it, and then we add 4.5 hours of self-study into it, what you get is 12 hours that is sustainable on a daily basis. And now, here the question of dummy school. There are 2 types of programs that go on, dummy school and SIP. I will talk about both of those programs as well. Now, if you're going for dummy school, then even this will get eliminated, and your daily engagement that is required comes down to 6 hours only. And somehow, if I can divert some time that I was earlier giving to school into it, like 4 hours, I'm looking into an IIT-JEE advanced rank. Because then I have done more self-study, and that more self-study will develop into better kind of expertise. Okay? And that is the reason most of the coachings and institutions, they will recommend dummy school over a regular school. The reason is that this 6 hours will get diverted here. Now, there is a very logical question that comes into parents' mind is, then what about the quality of schooling that is happening? See, that is relevant up to class 10th only. That is relevant for class 10th only. All the schooling that you wanted to do in terms of personality development has happened till class 10. 11th and 12th is the time for intellectual development. And that doesn't happen in school, if you talk about, because if you look into, I have the data of around 200 students. Out of 200 students, I'm not saying that it works, it is not suitable, schooling is not suitable for everybody. There are students who are able to balance. And those are those students who can churn out 14 hours of effort on a daily basis. These are the students that are able to maintain the balance. But not every student can be expected to be that efficient. And wherein dummy schools will come into picture, wherein even if you put less amount of effort, like 10 hours, you are getting a decent outcome in terms of JEE exam. That is one thing. Another thing is basically, if you go for something like that, few people say that there are SIP programs, school integrated programs. Now, this is a big mess. And if you talk about me, because I have worked in such programs for 6 to 7 years, I've led these programs in A+ category schools in Delhi. And my experience is that there is a lot of intervention from the side of schools. There are school tests happening, and there is coaching going on. So that kind of serious atmosphere regarding IIT-JEE preparation never gets found. And because of the constant intervention that comes from the side of school, it is very difficult to run also in the long run. So and also because the size is low, and the number of students in the SIP program will be less. Because of that, the quality of teachers also goes down. So this is not recommendable to anybody. Again, at dummy schools, usually I recommend, the reason behind that is most of the students are able to do it. But then there's some specific scenarios. If some students have less amount of schooling time, then even that model can also work for 10% of students. And for 10% of students, if they are going to school and able to maintain that 14-hour of hectic life cycle throughout the year, even that is recommendable. So one of the students did what, and in Pragvi is basically what he did was basically he has this 8 hours of school on a daily basis. And I will also show the data regarding that. So 8 hours of school on a daily basis. Now what this student does is basically he does school for 4 days in a week. And remaining 3 days he gives to Pragvi. So 4 days he's going to school. So these 48 hours are going into school. But then 3 days he's not going to school. So he's saving those 8 hours on the 3 days. And because of that, he's able to score good marks in JEE exams as well. So this model also few students are able to manage. But again, depends on school, depends on student. So I am only recommending this for 10% of students. So I'm not giving any blanket statement like to do this or do that. You will have to make choices based on 3 criteria. The first is the student able to churn out 14 hours of work for 2 years or not? That is one. Is the school flexible enough? That is two. Third, is the school engagement is less or not? And what kind of student are we talking about? Based on that, you can make a choice. Another thing is, now when I'm talking about, what is a dummy school? Okay, I will tell you what is a dummy school. So what is a dummy school is basically there are schools which are non-attending schools. We have a list of such schools, a tentative list that we have compiled from internet. This here you can go to school, but you are enrolled in a school, but you are not required to attend it regularly. So probably you can go it once a week, twice a week, and attendance is not compulsory. So such kind of schools are known as dummy schools. Fine. Now, what do we call as a good result in JEE examination? How many students appear, etc.?
Sir, there is one question on the
Yes,
dummy school in that.
Yeah,
Means we talk about that, means what is the pros of the dummy school? Okay. And what could be the cons of the dummy school? Means normally the parent has a feeling that the child will be not socialized, means it will get disengaged with the society. It will be a robotic kind of child. So
yes, you're right. Yeah. So see, there are two. This is a very good question that you asked, and I will like to take that question. I will try to explain it in this manner. Basically, see, you have, when you're preparing for JEE, and I've already explained the kind of day a student has. And now, let us take a day of a student who goes into a normal school. So now let us say that he goes to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, he's back at 4. And he rests for half an hour, then the coaching starts from, let us say, 5 to 6 or 7. Then you have to do the school homework that will consume 1 to 1.5 hours. So you have done that till 8.5. So till 7 to 8, 8:30, you are engaged into that. And then you have to do coaching work. So what happens is basically this becomes too much taxing for a student. So you have to choose between this. This is one model. And now if you go for dummy school, in that scenario, you are completely at home. That is also a reality. But so there is this scenario is definitely there, that it becomes a little bit monotonic on the side of student, that you are at home and you are not engaging, etc. But see, you can find like one hobby where you can dedicate 1.5 hours on a daily basis, and then that is fine. Okay, now what I have seen based on my experience, what I'm talking about here is basically, if we make choice between lesser of the two evils, not even no system is perfect. Even in dummy also, you are right, he is going to have to face that, what you can say, isolation. Sometimes we call that word. But even in this JEE journey, most of the times you have to sit and study on your own. And that is a harsh reality of Indian society that is there. We cannot go away with that. So I am not recommending that you should go for this or you should go for that. What I'm saying is that there are pros and cons of both the models. It is a con of a dummy school that you will face that little bit of isolation that is there. Is that good? It is good if you have to dedicate extra time into studies. It is bad if you feel isolated. So again, you will have to make choice based on your student, in your context, what kind of schools you're getting, what kind of attending facilities are there. So if you can have a little bit of flexible school, probably in your case, then it will be better. Like 3 or 4 days he can go, then 3 or 4 days he can do self-study whenever he wants to. So he can then balance between both the modes. Is that answer fine?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So now what kind of what is a good result when we are talking about JEE exam? So this is one of questions that I get, and how many students appear, how many get selected. So I will give you some stats and some percentile in one go only. So now let us say that there are 10 lakh students appearing for JEE examination. So there are 10 lakh students that appear for JEE examination approximately every year. It is 15 lakh if you talk about NEET. It is 10 lakh if you talk about JEE. Out of this 10 lakh students who are appearing for the examination, if you have somewhere around 85 to 90 percentile. Now, what do I mean by percentile? And percentile is not percentage. What does percentile mean is, for example, if there are 100 students in the class, And there are 100 students in the class, and out of those 100 students, you have a rank 5 in the class. That means there are 95 students which are behind you. So this will mean you have a 95 percentile. Now, in order to get this rank 5, you might have scored only 10% of marks. That doesn't matter. Still, you have a 95 percentile. So percentile essentially means ranking. How many students are behind you? So now when this 10 lakh students are writing the examination, if you have like 85 to 90 percentile, this is not percentage, this is percentile. I will represent it by P. Percentile, that means you will qualify for IIT-JEE Advanced. So this is qualification for advanced. Now, if I move further, and if you have like 95 percentile in IIT-JEE means, this will mean in terms of counseling that you will get some NIT. And if I move further in the cycle and you get 98 percentile, this means you will get computer science in some NIT, because most of the students these days want computer science only. And now if I move further and I talk about 99 percentile, then you might get computer science in choice of your NIT. And if I move ahead and talk about 99.9 percentile, that means you will probably also qualify advanced and get admission into IITs. This is what JEE mains result mean. So now if I talk about this, so how much percentage is required for this kind of performance? Let us talk about that. And then I'm going to do the same kind of analysis for advanced as well. If you're talking about the first, all you require in JEE exam is somewhere around 100 marks out of 300 marks. That will translate into 33%, approximately 33 to 40%. If you talk about second, and I'm talking about average that has been done for 4 to 5 years. I'm not exactly talking about what happened last year, because that data is not relevant. Now, if you talk about 95 percentile, what you will require is somewhere around 150 marks out of 300. That is nothing but 50% marks. And if I talk about the third 98 percentile, it means somewhere around 180 marks. So this is approximately 60%. And if we talk about 99, it is somewhere around 200 marks. That means 66%. And if we talk about 99.9, this means 240 out of 300 marks. That means 80%. So this is a measure that you can use to understand what kind of performance the student is having and what exactly is required in order for them to perform well in the exam. Now, if you look into this percentage, if I talk about last year, even at 60% marks, you could fall into 99% category. Because now what happens at JEE is there are multiple attempts that are happening. So these marks will vary from attempt to attempt based on the difficulty level of the paper as well. And also year to year, there is variation based on the difficulty level of the paper. So if I talk about last year, even at 66% marks, 60% marks, you would have got 99 percentile entered into computer science in any of the NIT of your choice. Now, if I give a comparative ranking in what kind of students actually get into BITS and VIT, I can also give that based on this analysis. Analogy can be drawn, not an exact thing. Now, if you talk about these students who are in this rank, this range from 90 to 95 percentile student, who are towards 95 will usually also clear BIT set and get into BITS. Who are towards 90 will go usually to VIT. This is another thing that is happening across India, what kind of students are getting into which college. So these are independent exams, but they have a connection. If you talk about in terms of numbers, statistics, this is what is also happening at the level of means. So this is when we talk about performance, this is what the performance means. Now, for all practical considerations, if you look into this data, 66 or 60% marks, 60 to 60% marks is a good mark. So why we need to understand this is basically because most of the people, when they have their test scores given, even students, they evaluate their performance from their previous CBSE performances. And that is usually 90, 95, 100 marks. Now, when we talk about JEE, here the 100 would mean 66%. That is what I'm. So good score. When you talk about JEE, a good score means 60 to 66%. So whenever you are writing a topic test or a periodic test or a quarterly test or a mock test, you need to make sure that you need to be above this percentage of marks. And in IIT JEE means level paper. Now, if I do the similar kind of analysis for advanced, in IIT JEE advanced, now for example, you have cleared your mains and you are writing your JEE advanced paper. In advanced paper, if you get 30% marks, what does that entail? That entails that you will qualify, you will get one of the IITs. There are 17,000 seats in NITs. Out of that 17,000 seats, you will get some seat. You will get some IIT. You will be called an IITian. That is one thing. The first thing. Now, if you want to get into 5,000 rank, that means if you want to get into old IITs, the old 7 IITs, so 7 old IITs, then you will require 40% marks. This will entail somewhere around 5,000 rank. 30% mean 10,000 rank. And if you want to get into, let us say in top 2,000 ranks, what usually you require is 50% marks. And this will mean basically you can have good options. And if I'm talking about, you can have majority of options except CS. Except CS, you will have all other options in the IITs. And if I talk about 60% marks, that means you will be getting a rank in top 1,000, and that will mean you will get computer science in IITs. And if you talk about something more than this, like 70%, you might also get into top 500 ranks. This is statistical. I will also tell what happened last year. And this means you will be in the top 500 rank, and this will mean you will get CS in 7 old IITs. Now this data, this is for general category, might also change based on your data. Based on category, it might also change. Okay, got it. Now, having understood that, now last year, even students having 59%, and now this changed. And last year, what happened is there are students, and even by scoring 57% marks, they have got a rank under 200. Okay, so even what I'm talking about here, there was a lot of variation last year that is happening. And students have been able to get computer science somewhere by scoring 50% marks. They were able to get computer science in IITs. Okay, so there is a lot of variation that happens from year to year. This data that I have given is an average of last 10 years. Okay, but here also what you should understand is basically in whatever way we see it, 60% in IIT JEE Advanced is a very good score. So again, here also, if you're writing a JEE Advanced paper also, a good score is nothing but 60%. So if you have 60% score at the level of JEE Advanced paper, okay, general category, girls average. Yes, what will happen is basically the average clearing advance is not a great task, because if you talk about clearance, it will be around 30 only. A little bit 2-3% less would be there, but you will get advantage in terms of branches. So even if you're scoring like 27% marks, 25% marks, you will get through the IIT examination. You will get some seat. But you will get advantage if you are getting like the same kind of marks I'm talking about, you will get advantage in terms of branches. Yeah. So that is there. Yes. Fine. So see, this is what we talk about. So failure and success in JEE exam means 60%. So that is one parameter you should keep in mind. So whenever the student is writing some test, 60% marks is getting 60% plus or not, that you should focus on. If you are consistently above 60% in all the exams that we are writing, we are looking at a very good rank in JEE exam. So I guess I have answered all the questions regarding percentile, percentage, performance that needs to be ensured at the level of JEE. How to keep students without stress during this examination. Now let us understand in this manner that whether we want it or not, when you are competing against, now see, for example, we go to our office and in our profession only we have to compete with 10-15 people. And in our office, there are 10-15 people, or in profession, there are 10-15 people that we need to compete against in order to prove our existence. The students are doing that against 10 to 15 lakh students. If we are stressful, obviously they are going to feel the pressure. But see, there is a difference between pressure and stress that I sometimes feel that the parents or guardians do not understand that. See, pressure is a part of the journey. I have yet to see a student for JEE preparation, however intelligent or unintelligent he was, who didn't feel the pressure of the examination. And pressure is coming because there are 10 lakh students who are fighting for it. There is no way around it. The pressure is going to be there. But should it be converted into stress? That is another question that we need to answer. Now, I do not think that preparation needs to be stressful. Now, I will tell you from where the stress comes from. Stress comes from 3-4 factors. One, some stress comes from environment. And now, environment can be two prone. There is environment in which the student is there when he's going to coaching and he's constantly comparing himself with other students. This comparison will lead to stress. Another thing is basically sometimes the parents are also pressuring the students to perform better. So from family also sometimes some pressure comes through the family. But I will call that as pressure and not stress. Now this will become this pressure that is coming through relative competition or family because of performance will become stress when there are no supporting structure for students. So if there is no mentor to the student that he can go and talk to, that I am falling short in my performance, I am not able to do certain things. And if there is no mentor in this journey, then this pressure might get converted into stress as well. So for example, there was a student in my class and she used to struggle a lot with the idea that there was a lot of pressure and she was unable to score good marks in the examination. So what I told her was basically probably you should do some breathing exercises, etc. You will feel relaxed. So his marks didn't improve. Her marks didn't improve, but she became relaxed. And in due course of time, because she was relaxed, she was able to understand what needs to be done. She did those things and eventually the marks improved. And so being relaxed is very important in this examination. So pressure would be there. So this environmental pressure by comparison through friends, he got that much mark, I got this much mark. Family, that you are not doing well, you are not studying enough. That is there. Another kind of pressure that I've seen comes because of this strenuous study cycle. So if we talk about, there are 90 topics that we are delivering. Okay? So now if you are delivering 90 topics at a consistent pace, let us say that now you are unable to balance your school with JEE preparation. So what happened? There was a school test that has some different topic, and in JEE preparation cycle, there was a different topic. And somehow I was unable to balance both of them. Because of that, there was some backlog. And then this backlog, and now already what was going on, I was unable to cope with that. And then because of this backlog, there was some extra pressure that was generated. So now they find it difficult to maneuver. So now because of this backlog, any additional pressure got generated. And so this is another reason for that. And what I feel is basically, now what happens in such scenarios is now in order to clear this backlog, the student try to give additional time by working at night. They work at night throughout the night and their sleep cycle get disturbed. Then their ability to absorb content also goes down in the classes, and further there is a pressure because now they are unable to understand what is going in the class. So this is like a vicious cycle. So once if you start losing confidence on yourself and when you start losing track of whatever is going on, it will start piling up. And because of that, you will get extra time in the night, and then you are not slept enough. Your mind is not working at 100% capacity. Your understanding goes down, and then it is a vicious cycle. So that happens with not 1, 2, but 90% of the students. Now, how to get rid of that? Now, pressure is there, we all understand. But if we do 2 or 3 simple things, we can be able to relieve student of that pressure. The first thing that we can do is basically have a good sense of time management into picture. So what I mean by time management? See, you should need to have a very good mathematics into picture, like how much time is going where. So if you want to be ahead in this race, you need to understand this is a kind of exam that focuses a lot on problem solving. So if you're giving like 4 hours every day for problem solving, none of these problems will happen because you will always be on top of all the things. Second thing is basically the revision that I talked about. The revision should be there for 30 minutes, wherein you should have a mechanism wherein you have compressed the chapters into some kind of short notes, and you are revising those short notes because these chapters will start connecting with each other after a certain point of time. So if you're not confident with that, you will again face problem in solving problems. After doing these two things, another thing is basically never to miss a class. So attendance will become very important. And then after all of this, still you will require some kind of an emotional support and guidance. So I will call this as mentor. I have seen a student clearing this exam just by getting right kind of mentorship. So there was a student who came to me. She was earlier a student also, but when she came to me, her major problem was she was unable to manage things and she didn't know what to do what. She was working hard. So in that case, when I was able to rearrange her day and the kind of activity she was doing in a day, she was able to clear the exam and get into IIT. She is an IIT Jodhpur student now. Average student who was scoring 95 percentile means 5,000 rank. And sorry, 50,000 rank. And was able to cut down his rank, her rank to 5,000 in a matter of 2 to 3 months by doing right kind of things. And so see, mentor is a very important part in this journey that needs to be there, because he or she is going to tell the student what exactly to do in a day, how to arrange the day. And the important elements would be how you are managing your time. So your time mathematics needs to be very good. 4 hours are going into problem, 30 minutes to 1 hour is going into revision. You have short notes in place that you're revising on a daily basis. Once you are doing this, you're not missing even a single class, because there is no gap that is being formed because of XYZ reasons. And if there is problem, you discuss with the mentor. Now here, there is one question that remains unanswered. That is how to balance school with this. Because there is school also going on. They have their own set of tests that are happening. So for that, you need to have a sense of tunnel vision. What do I mean by that? Now, for example, there is a test that is going to come next month. So what a student do is basically they will start studying for that test 2 or 3 days before the test. Now, what does that do to your JEE preparation is basically, now for those 2 or 3 days, for wherein you are studying for that test, you think that it is easy, I will be able to manage in 2 or 3 days. But when you actually start doing it, you realize that it is not that easy. Then the stress starts generating because of that, because you took your school exam lightly. And now because of that, now you are unable to perform. Even at the level of school, there is no performance. Now this resulted into additional stress. So it is a vicious cycle. And now somehow the parents also lose confidence in you, because you are not able to do even at the level of school. So how can you do at the level of JEE? And this is some statement that are usually given to students by parents. So again, they lose confidence in the whole process of preparation for JEE. Idea is basically, if you know that there is some cycle or school testing cycle that is there, school testing cycle it is there, you prepare well ahead of time. Instead of thinking that I am going to do it in 2 or 3 days, you think I am going to do in 1 month. And you can give 30 minutes to 1 hour on a daily basis for this activity, for this school preparation. And if you do it and have a well-managed timetable into place, you will be able to manage this without any problem. And if you get good scores here, this will boost your confidence. And if you have added confidence, you can attack your JEE preparation. You will feel much more confident in that. In order to help you with that, what we do usually at Practice, we give you recorded lecture of all the topics at CBSE level. So that if you want to refer back and there is some topic that is happening in the school, you should cope with that. But this is something that needs to be done. If you do that, if you handle your school well, your stress goes down. And if your stress goes down, with additional confidence, you can devote this time management of 4 hours of problem solving, 30 minutes to 1 hour of revision, not missing a single class, whether it was school exam or not. And then if you have any problem, talking to the mentor for specific solutions. Do not go and check internet and YouTube for general solutions, general guidance, because that is not going to work for you. Your situation is different. Fine. So if this happens, usually the student will work through this pressure effortlessly. And the pressure will still be there, but stress will not be there. And then it will become an enjoyable journey. How can you help the students? This is the last question that I get. How can we help the student? So see, obviously a mentor is required, but if, for example, the mentor is not there, then you can become the mentor of the student. Now you can talk to students like what exactly is happening. If we talk about JEE cycle, there are 6 elements that I told you. That was goal setting, then there was classes, then there was practice, then there was testing, then there was revision and mentorship. Where exactly the student is facing problem. Target that on a weekly basis, develop some skill set if you cannot go to a professional mentor. Environment design. See, now a student is studying. What kind of environment we are able to manage around him? In the home is a very important thing. And there is a very important study, if you can refer back after this session, is on Polgar sisters. So Polgar sisters were trained to play chess by managing their environment. So you need to surround students by things that motivate them for their JEE goal. And there should not be things like in which they are getting disturbed in this 2-year cycle. They're there, if you can reduce the amount of parties, functions for the 2 years only. After that, whatever you want, you can do. Parties, other kind of things, other kind of useless, I should not use the word useless, which can make student diverted from their preparation journey. And so that environment design should be very good in your home, wherein we are focused on the JEE thing for at least 2 years, or the NEET thing for at least 2 years. So that environment we need to develop. We are surrounded by things like content that we are consuming on TV, the kind of discussions we are happening, and all of that needs to be managed at the level of parents so that the student does not get distracted. See, if I'm doing JEE preparation and I started doing arts and crafts, I'm going to get distracted. I can do that for making myself de-stressed sometimes. I can play some music, that is fine. But how much of that is being done needs to be taken care. You cannot, ideally speaking, now students have also done that also. So I'm not putting a blanket statement on anything. But ideally speaking, to manage 2 or 3 things along with your JEE preparation is usually not the best strategy. Okay, fine. I'm going to answer that question as well. And then there is emotion design. Emotion design in the sense that how the student is feeling throughout the preparation. That is very much important. If you are able to manage, if you are somehow able to manage them motivated throughout the journey, it will be a very good thing. And motivation will come by setting small targets and achieving them. So whatever small targets we are setting, like for example, I took a target of studying for 4 hours and then I was able to manage it. So that will help in motivation. And then daily tracking becomes very important. What outcomes we were able to develop again throughout daily tracking. So how much of time is going where, how much questions we solved on a daily basis. If we have some kind of an Excel sheet or a copy for measuring all of those things, those daily tracking will play a big role, because even if I'm solving like 30 questions, and if I increase 1 every day, I will achieve my target in 2 months. So daily and weekly tracking can help you achieve a lot of things. Now I have got, my questions are done. What I have got, now I have got a new question. And that question says that how will be the coaching class schedule per week and any early morning sessions available? So usually in Pragvi, we start after 12:30 because most of the students are engaged in some kind of school activity. So we do not want to disturb that. That is the reason we start at 12:30. Class schedule per week, usually, ideally speaking, not more than 9 classes of 1 hour are required. 3 in physics, 3 in chemistry, 3 in mathematics. If apart from that, there are weekly doubt sessions, there are testing on the weekends happening, so that is separate. But 9 hours of coaching on a daily basis is more than enough. Are dummy schools best options? I will go back to the dummy school question again. See, dummy schools are good option if you're looking at a student who cannot consistently churn out 14 hours, and that is true for most of the students. So if you have a student or a child who can churn out 14 hours of output on a daily basis, 8 hours of schooling, 1 or 2 hours of coaching, and then again sitting for 4 hours, then probably you can go for a regular school. If a student you think can work for 10 to 12 hours sustainably on a daily basis and want to achieve JEE advanced score as well, then probably go for dummy school. That is a better option. Yes, another question. Okay, fine. Free structure, probably I will ask the sales team, they can get touch in with you. This is academic session. Online coaching can be clubbed if the child is using for dummy school. See, clubbing coaching is not recommended at all. You go for offline or you go for online. That is your choice. I will give you pros and cons for both, but clubbing is not advisable by anybody. The reason is that, for example, I am teaching topic Newton's law of motion. The coaching is teaching rotation motion. Now there is going to be a clash. The student has limited time in a day. What exactly is the homework or the self-study that is doing will determine the quality of the output. So see, coaching is going to contribute, but more than that, what the student is doing at a personal level is also going to play a big role. So though 2 coachings will clash between themselves, are not advisable at all. Another thing is basically online and offline. Now see, offline you spend time in traveling from one place to another. Another thing is basically in offline, yes, there you see the teacher in front of you, but there are usually the batches are big. So the interaction that is happening with the faculty is low. Learning happens when you have interaction with each other, right? So that interaction will not be there. So if you're going for online also, to go for those models which have small batch sizes, because there is a lot of interaction. So the importance is of interaction and saving time, because that extra saved time can go into personal in self-study, and that will give you result in terms of months. Fine.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
You have talked about general practices or general problems, how to tackle this during the J, advance and etc.
Yes.
Now we'll have to select either you or something else. So would you please talk something about you, why we should prefer you? What is that extra? What is that extra you have achieved so far? Or something like this. Maybe like what you've been online available, some other fellow also might be available on the net. So what I will inquire about you, that how you are better or what is your achievement, something like this, if you can brief.
Okay, fine. So what I will tell you is basically there are 2-3 things I'm going to talk about. What we are trying to do differently is basically we are trying to work in small batches with the student. What is the logic of small batches? So see, when you are learning, most of the learning happens through interaction, the kind of discussion that we are happening. So now, if I want to discuss things, I cannot discuss in a batch of 100 students. And what there will happen is basically I will give a delivery which is generalized in nature. And then I'm not getting in feedback that how exactly the student is reacting based on that delivery. Are those things clear or not, or they are just feeling that it is clear? So that kind of questioning and answering needs to happen in the class on a one-on-one basis with the student. And that is the reason I recommend small batches. And that is what the PRAGBI model is, teaching in small batches 1. In this journey of discussion, I talked about mentorship a lot. Student requires constant monitoring and mentoring, in the sense that they need to be tried what kind of output they are churning on a weekly basis. What are the skill sets that are required in order to do practice, in order to do attend classes, how to prepare towards the end of their cycle. For that, a strong mentor is required. So PRAGBI model also we have sessions of one-on-one basis in which we are sitting with the students and training them, first upskilling them in the process of what to do in each of these phases of their JEE preparation. Secondly, we focus on the idea of how they are doing on a day-to-day basis, so tracking that is happening at the level of data on a day-to-day basis. How many questions they are solving, what kind of test score they are getting, how to improve those test scores, that happens. And then the third thing is, in this whole system, the student is, we have limited the amount of classes that are happening. So I can go for extensive classes of 3 hours, 4 hours, but what I've seen is basically content that is given in a very efficient manner, in less amount of time, and then student getting more amount of time to practice. That system will somehow work better for students rather than spending a lot of time in classes. Now, if we talk about the kind of results we are able to generate out of this system is basically, so even this year, 60% of the students who qualified JEE Mains got into IIT-JEE Advanced examination. And even if you talk about year before that, it was like 80% students who were able to do that. So consistently, we are able to churn out result and make students better. And there are students who have come into our system who were struggling at the level of boards. And then we're able to not just clear JEE Mains examination, but get into NITs as well. So that is the logic, sir. So that is the kind of result and the impact that we are able to generate because of these 3 specific things. Now, if you go for any online model, they are generally mass-based. This kind of approach is not available. If that is available, the quality of faculty is usually not good. And if you go for offline, the interaction is just not there. So there are 100 students that are, or 50 students in a class, and then it goes and on. There is no discussion that is happening in the class. Okay, fine. Okay, now if we talk about faculty. So usually what happens is basically, we have to rarely do that, changing faculty, but what we have system, I will tell you about what kind of faculties we had and what is the system of faculty that is there in PRAGBI. So in PRAGBI system, we have 2 types of faculties. One who have themselves cleared IIT-JEE examination. And most of the faculties have cleared their JEE examination. One, either they are from IIT or they are not from IIT. Now, if they are from IIT, they have a decent amount of experience. If they are not from IIT, they have excessive amount of experience. So what happens there is basically, they have compensated their whatever they have not doing that journey of JEE examination by their experience. This is how we hire a faculty. Once we have hired a faculty, the classes that happen, we have an internal system of review that is into place. The HODs go through the classes of the faculty that they are taking on a weekly basis. An internal report is being continuously generated. So before the student tell us something, we already has a report into our own thing. Now still there might be some student who is facing some problem for XYZ reason. So our first strategy is to have a one-on-one session arranged with that faculty so that the student becomes comfortable. And even that, if there is some serious problem with the faculty, we change the faculty. Got it. Fine. Then I guess I have answered all the questions. Is there something else?
Excuse me, once again, sir, about the performance which I was inquiring about.
Yes.
Do you have any,
Those results already Mohan is shared in the chat box. There's a link for the results in the chat box. You can go through that.
Pardon, sir?
The results you are talking about, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Normally they are published in the newspaper and something like this.
Yeah, we have
something
already put that on the website, sir.
Yeah.
There is already a link in the chat box. You can go and check it there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So actually, all the parents here are you all have the wards are already studying in foundation courses with us. So if you have any more questions, want to know anything in detail, you can just ask the operations person or counselor, and we can schedule a 1:1 session with Shival sir for 15-20 minutes.
Fine, then I guess that was my time. So if there are further queries like you have, what we can have one-on-one sessions in which we can have discussion on that. Okay? Thank you for coming. It was a nice session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.